The Broncos have made two more free agent signings that I am calling under-the-radar signings, and I'll explain why on today's episode. But Denver's been relatively busy so far. Obviously, they made a handful of re-signings before things got started, and then from Monday to now, they have made three external signings and one more re-signing with Talanoa Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw coming from the Bay Area. And then in the last 24 hours, Trent Sherfield coming from the Minnesota Vikings, and then linebacker Justin Strnad re-signing with Denver. So we're going to highlight these two, but we're also going to talk about the impact that these two have on the Broncos roster. But help us out, though. We are trying to get to 33,500 subscribers before the end of day 3 of free agency. We are a little under 150 away. So if you haven't joined the channel yet, you're missing out. Click that sub button down below. But let's break down the two most recent signings, the ones that I'm calling under the radar. Starting with a familiar face in Justin Strnad, who's been with the Broncos for, believe it or not, the guy is just a little bit of like a cockroach. I mean, not in a bad way, but just when you think he's not on the roster anymore, he keeps finding a way to come back on this roster. And I don't mind. I thought he did a pretty good job filling in for Alex Singleton last year when he went down. 73 tackles, 3 sacks, 8 tackles for loss. So plenty of good production right there. No qualms for me when it comes to bringing back a Broncos special teams kind of, I wouldn't say legend, but, core player that's really elevated his game and put together some valuable contributions on defense. Now, the reason why this is an under-the-radar signing is I saw this tweet from Mike Kliss, and it caught me off guard a little bit because there's a quote saying, "They told me I'm going to compete to be a starter another year." Now, maybe the Broncos lied to him because they really value him as a backup, and he could start elsewhere, but the Denver Broncos don't want to lose him, so they're going to tell him, hey, it's a competition for, well, there's only one job that's open right now, and I didn't even think it was open. That's Alex Singleton's job, because you definitely did not sign Dre Greenlaw for that to be a competition with Justin Strnad. So Singleton returning from that ACL tear last year, it looks like it's in a feeding frenzy for that second inside linebacker gig between himself, Strnad, and you know what? I'm going to toss one more name in there as well. Drew Sanders, who missed a lot of 2024 recovering from an offseason Achilles injury, but the Broncos are going to put him at inside linebacker. So Singleton, I think, is definitely starting to put himself towards the hot seat because of Justin Strnad saying, I'm here to compete for a starting gig. Well, it ain't Dre Greenlaw's starting job that you're competing with. It's got to be Singleton. So if they're interested in this being an open competition, I would not rule out them just moving on from Singleton altogether, getting around $7-ish million in cap space. I doubt you're going to find much of a trade market for him. He's over the age of 30. He's coming off an ACL tear. I don't know what team would give up draft capital for Singleton, but that's just something to keep in the back of your mind as we inch towards OTAs, minicamp, and then, of course, training camp. But I still think Singleton has a lot of good, gas left in the tank and a lot of good football left in him. He was terrific in 2023, a tackling machine, came to Denver as a special teamer from Philly, and kind of like a Zach Bond light, signed to be a special teamer, discovered you have a really good piece in the middle of your defense. So we'll see what happens. It'll be a fun competition, but Justin Strnad coming back to compete for a starting job. Now, I was talking about Dre Greenlaw for a moment, so I just want to touch on this one more time for today at least, and then we'll talk about the other free agent signing. But if you've been under a rock for the last 72 hours, I'm just going to continue to say this and beat this drum. This was an excellent signing by the Broncos. I know that when you look at the lack of availability last season, it's a bit concerning, but remember, he missed all of that pretty much because of a Super Bowl injury in February, earlier that calendar year. But 2022, 2023, Dre Greenlaw was a core piece of this 49ers defense. I don't think San Francisco is happy that they have let him go in free agency, but I think it's more a reflection of, hey, we kind of need to retool slightly. We're moving on from some of the more expensive veteran players like Deebo Samuel, Talanoa Hufanga, Dre Greenlaw, guys who have had, just unfortunately one too many injuries over the last couple of years for us to give big contracts to. And as a result, the 49ers are going to get a ton of comp picks in next year's draft. And by a ton, I mean valuable early, third, fourth round comp picks. So right now for Niners fans, it really stings watching Greenlaw and Hufanga and all these, locker room, pieces leave. But next year, they're going to be a lot happier when they have a boatload of draft picks. Now, which signing do you think was better, Greenlaw or Hufanga? I'm split because I've always liked Greenlaw as a player, fifth-round pick from Arkansas who has carved out a good amount of change in his NFL career. But I'm going to go with Hufanga. The guy was an All-Pro in 2022. Yes, an ACL injury in 2023, ended what was going to be maybe back-to-back All-Pro seasons. But 2 years removed from that ACL injury, I'm confident that he can return back to the top of the safety leaderboard. The other signing that Denver made, and this was later yesterday, last night, that I put a short out for on the channel, it is wide receiver Trent Sherfield, a 2-year, $8 million contract. $4 million a year for a player who had less than 100 receiving yards last year feels a little rich, but then you start to think about it a couple steps deeper, and this is a special teams signing. This is Darren Rizzi going, give me someone that I can work with and have a valuable piece on the outside when it comes to punt coverage and punt returns and things like that. Just give me a jack of all trades. And Trent Sherfield has carved out a nice NFL career, as you can see, hopping all over the country, playing predominantly special teams for teams. He also had some level of success at receiver back in 2022, 417 yards, 2 touchdowns. That was back when he was with the Buffalo Bills, I believe it was. But since then, you can look, Vikings in 2024, 8 grabs, 83. No, that was the Dolphins in 2022. Excuse me. 2023 is with the Bills. But anywho, the last 2 years, I mean, just not a whole lot of receiving action going on. And hey, that's okay. I think we sometimes forget how important special teams is when it comes to flipping the field and not having, big costly mistakes like one in Kansas City that I can think of last year. And it also helps when it comes to, converting a fake punt in a playoff game like the Broncos did in Buffalo. So it may not feel like a big, sexy acquisition. Receiver with 86 yards. What are we doing here? What you're doing is you're improving your roster. So I like both these signings for the Broncos. And overall, I think they've done a really good job in free agency without spending a ton of money, but making some calculated and precise signings. We're going to wrap up the video in just a moment, but one quick thing first. Make sure you check out chatsports.com/fanatics for this Broncos Bo Nix jersey. They're having a big sale right now. I don't want you guys to wait too much longer because these sales can come and go on Fanatics. So don't be like me, day late, dollar short, and put it off into the future. Go to chatsports.com/fanatics to get this Broncos jersey 25% off. So just to kind of recap what Denver has done so far in free agency in terms of additions and subtractions, the big name right here I'd say is DJ Jones, that 3-year, $39 million contract. It's a little surprising to me. I know it's always a bold thing to be critical of a team when they're coming off a playoff appearance, but it's a loaded defensive tackle class and a $39 million contract, which really should only pay attention to the guaranteed money. But still, I thought this would be a good year to maybe reset a little bit, go young and go cheap at interior defensive line because there are so many good DTs. But the Broncos want to run it back with Jones, who had a very strong 2024 year. And then the big kahunas, right? Hufanga and Greenlaw. These are A grades to me. I think that in a few years, people are going to look back and go, why did the 49ers leave again? Like, it's going to be a question that casuals ask of, I don't understand, was there like a locker room issue? No. It was just an absolute fleece by the Broncos in free agency, getting an all-pro safety at $15 million a year, and I think a borderline Pro Bowl caliber linebacker at even less than that. And then nice quality under-the-radar signings right here as Denver continues to put together their roster. I expect the Broncos to make some more moves. If I had to pick one more position to watch for, probably cornerback, because they lost Trayman Smith to the Houston Texans in free agency, and they always are looking for depth at that position. George Payton loves getting good corners. Remember in 2021, they had like a cornerback overload. They were talking about trading a corner before the season even started. Pat Surtain, Ronald Darby, Kyle Fuller, Michael Ojemudia, and I'm forgetting one more. Someone's going to yell at me in the comment section. But they have a ton of good corner, or they have a good history of corners, and I think they're going to want to add some more depth there. But Williams, best of luck in Dallas. No bad feelings from me over here. I always thought that the injury would start to put himself, the injury would be in the rearview mirror 2 years away, but 2024 was just too disappointing to bring him back. And then Riley Dixon, if you really want one more signing to watch for, it'll be a punter. So Denver needs one. And with theirs in Tampa, watch for maybe Colorado State legend Ryan Stonehouse. He's got a cannon of. Can you have a cannon of a leg? I don't think you can have a cannon of a leg. If you have a cannon of an arm, what's the equivalent of a cannon of a leg? A trebuchet of a leg? I like that. A catapult of a leg? Trebuchet is pretty cool because it does I don't know. Oh, the lights kind of automatically turn on every so often in the studio. It's one of the new ones. Sam just walked in as the lights turned on. He also walked in when they signed Dre Greenlaw. No? Okay, no signing this time. So grade the Broncos free agency. Give me an A, B, C, D, or F down below in the comment section. Appreciate everyone for tuning in and hope you guys enjoy our live coverage today around 12 Mountain Time, 1 Central, 2 Eastern. So tune in for our Day 3 coverage of the NFL free agency period. Click that sub button down below if you have not already, and I'll see everyone next time here on the Broncos Breakdown.